We ran that letter through four market-leading AI detection tools. Three of them came back saying that they believed that the letter was either entirely or almost entirely generated by AI.
Some more exclusive reporting for you now. Cambridge University is facing severe criticism after emails revealed senior figures brushed off detailed allegations of plagiarism against their star professor Jason Arday, claiming he had their full support. Professor Arday, the youngest black person ever to be appointed to a professorship at Cambridge, resigned on Wednesday amid mounting scrutiny over extensive similarities in his academic papers and thesis. The Times has now revealed that the head of his faculty, Professor Hilary Kremin, dismissed early warnings from academics in May 2023, citing his experiences of direct and indirect racism and hailing him as the best in the world. It comes as details emerge that Arday reported academics and journalists to the police for harassment when challenged, with the Met Police admitting today they dropped the ball by investigating one reporter for 4 months. Let's get the exclusive reporting then of the Times' Tom Ball. Tom, good evening to you.
Good evening.
So you have here seen emails from Professor Hilary Kremin, which leaped to the defence of Jason Arday. This is Arday's boss.
Yeah, that's right. So Arday was appointed to the role of professor at the Faculty of Education at Cambridge in March of 2023. And then 2 months later, two academics from different universities wrote to Cambridge, pointing out that they had spotted a number of inconsistencies, similarities, and things that they thought were concerning and should be raised with the faculty. They wrote, as you said, to Professor Hilary Kremin, who is the head of the faculty, pointing out those similarities. The emails that we've seen show that Kremin responded to those by stating that she'd held a meeting with Arday, and that following the meeting with Arday, he decided to take down the article from the journal where it appeared online. And she then went on to write that Professor Arday spoke movingly about his ongoing experiences of direct and indirect racism and the conditions he was living whilst writing that article, and then concluded the email by saying she hoped that had satisfactorily dealt with their concerns that they'd raised.
So she doesn't just address the allegations, she also backs him wholeheartedly and adds in some of the context that Professor Arday has been so keen to add in himself along this process of these revelations coming to light. There are similarities, as you said. One of the academics highlighted a number of similarities between a 2018 paper published by Arday and a study by the renowned epidemiologist Anja Memon and his team. And he wrote to Arday. Harris wrote to Arday before he had written to Kremin, and he turned to Kremin. As I understand it from your reporting, Tom, because he did not really receive an answer from Arday. In fact, Arday was incredibly defensive and delayed in his response.
Yeah, that's right. So the two academics went to Kremin, having initially gone to Arday for comment on this. So Harris had been looking at Arday's work as part of a different project that he was working on, and it was while reading through Arday's work that he noticed that these similarities and concerns. So he then wrote a very long and fulsome and I would say quite politely worded email to Arday, in which he didn't cast any aspersions, didn't make any assumptions, but just points out the fact that he'd noted these similarities and also a few sort of spelling and grammatical points in Arday's work as well. Arday didn't respond to that. A week goes past, so Harris writes again, and Arday then responds to that follow-up. The follow-up, which I've also seen, is very curt in its response and very defensive. Arday doesn't engage at all with any of the critiques that Harris has made, but instead accuses him of acting without any reflexivity or humility whatsoever.
Yeah.
He then goes on to say that instead of spending your time trying to dismantle racist ableism, you should have spent your time combing through the hours you spent combing through my work for mistakes, trying to further the causes that.
Yeah. So he's basically accusing Harris here of not looking in the right direction. You should be dismantling racism and ableism, he says, rather than looking for mistakes in my work. He says, I've got no problem with constructive criticism, but the tone of your emails are unkind and hostile. And then to kind of finally draw a line under it, really, and this is, fairly extreme, one might judge, Arday asked him not to write to him again and said anything further from you will be considered bullying and harassment. And that is where these two academics then turned to Arday's boss. They had no choice, effectively.
Yes, yeah, they felt they weren't getting anywhere at all with Arday, and so felt that the gravity of their findings warranted further inspection. So hence they wrote to Cambridge. But Harris did actually write back to Arday after Arday had sent that response to him, warning him that if he'd write back that he would report him for harassment. And in that email, Harris again very politely states that he's got huge admiration for Arday for the fact that he's clearly overcome lots of adversities to get where he is. And Arday then subsequently reports him to the police for harassment.
Yeah, and look, we know Arday made a similar complaint last year against Jack Grove, a journalist at the Times Higher Education. All investigation was dropped, and there's that one. And then you're also writing, just as a sidebar, let's just mention this quickly, Tom, because this story continues to get even more extraordinary. You've been looking at Arday's resignation letter, and what have you found?
Yeah, so Arday published a 600-word resignation letter yesterday, which was published on the website of the Good Law Project. We ran that letter through 4 market-leading AI detection tools. 3 of them came back saying that they believed that the letter was either entirely or almost entirely generated by AI. Now, it should be said that these tools aren't totally foolproof, but they typically tend to look at the sort of markers and signatures that AI-produced text tends to leave, stuff like syntactic uniformity, certain words that AI tends to favor. And on the basis of 3 of those market-leading AI detection tools that we ran them through, they thought that it was 90+% basically that had been generated.
It then appears, based on the evidence that you have, that his resignation letter was written using artificial intelligence. Look, thank you for being with us, Tom. Really appreciate it. Both your pieces at thetimes.com and in the paper tomorrow. That is reporter for The Times, Tom Ball. Thank you.